Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. All right, we're going to start real soon. Good morning, everyone. It is my honor to introduce our Research Day's keynote speaker, Dr. Youssef Kousa. Dr. Kousa is a prenatal and neonatal neurologist and physician scientist whose work sits at the forefront of understanding how emerging viral infections impact brain development. As the founding director of the Prenatal Infection and Neurodevelopmental Genetics, PING Consortium, he has built a powerful global collaboration spanning multiple countries, research centers, and thousands of mother-infant participants. Through this work, his team is uncovering the biological mechanisms behind viral infections and brain injury while advancing diagnostics and therapeutic strategies that aim to protect the most vulnerable stages of human development. In parallel, Dr. Kousa leads the K-Labs research program, where interdisciplinary teams explore how viruses affect rapidly developing neural cells, bridging fields from neurology and pediatrics to genomics, immunology, and RNA therapeutics. Dr. Kousa's journey is as inspiring as his scientific contributions. A proud two-time alumnus of Kean University, he earned his bachelor's and master's degrees before completing his DO PhD training at Michigan State University and residency at Children's National Hospital. Today, he returns to share a story shaped by curiosity, persistence, and a deep commitment to service, one that reflects the transformative power of research and education. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Youssef Kousa.
Thank you, so kind, thank you. Good morning. I'm not sure I need to say anything after that introduction. I think we can. I think that was inspirational enough. I hope I live up to the introduction. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. My name is Youssef. I'm a prenatal and neonatal neurologist. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Marshall, Renat, Chimobi, Sameep, Laura, Ted, all of you who taught me and helped me get to this point. Again, it's an honor and a privilege. And congratulations. I mean, really congratulations to Kean University and congratulations to the students. What an impressive set of 20 years you've had, right? You've gone global, you've gone south, you've gone north, you've gone everywhere. You've gone into Jersey City recently. I mean, it's all really quite impressive. We had dinner last night, and I'm making my right onto Morris Avenue, and there used to be an enormous parking lot, and now that parking lot is filled with buildings. There's a building to my left, there's a building to the right, there's buildings everywhere. So congratulations on that. I know that that's really hard. And you took a lot of risks, right? Everybody's taken a lot of risk by reaching out, going into China, going into Ocean City, going into Jersey City. There's a lot of risks that come with that. And so I'm going to talk to you today about risks. And I'm going to talk to you about a really important quote that I'm going to read because I want to get it right, by Robert Frost. Robert Frost said, "Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." So I learned about this quote many years after I kind of needed to make some important choices, but I had a professor, an organic chemistry professor. Many of you who've been on faculty for a long time will remember Dale Vitale. Dale was the chair of the chemistry and physics department at that time. He was also the best organic chemist I could have hoped to have. There were a couple of organic chemistry professors, and I remember that Dale was like the hard one. Like everybody said, like, don't take organic chemistry with Dr. Vitale because it's going to be a really hard class. You're going to have to learn. And I was like, well, I want to learn, so I took Dale's class, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made, because Dale and I became friends. We talked frequently about politics and the Middle East and this conflict and that conflict. And I remember just standing at his office and just kind of sharing information. And he was mentoring me. That's what he was doing at that time. And it resonated with me deeply. I was very sad that he passed away several years ago, but he was a great professor and a good man. And he basically taught me what Robert Frost said in kind of an internal way. And I want to share it with the students, those here in person and those listening virtually. Dale said this. We were talking about choices and what I was going to do for the summer. And Dale said, if you're ever between two choices and you're not sure what to do, think about it this way. There will be an easy choice, and there will be a hard choice. There will be something that seems ready to go, like I know what this is going to look like, and then there's going to be something that scares you. And he said, if you ever are not sure what to do, pick the thing that scares you. And that's what I've been doing, basically. I've just been picking the things that seemed harder. I've been picking the things that seemed scarier, and hoping that I can rise to the challenge. So I guess you all are having me back today because I've been scared for the longest period of time since leaving college. And so I'm happy to share a couple of those moments. What I'm going to share with you today are just kind of 3 points in time that crystallized how I think about this. I no longer think about things as being scared. I think about it in terms of more like calculated risk. But in the beginning, you could have said, jump off of the building, and I would have said, well, if I get to medical school, I'll do it. But many of us take risks, right? Many of you took risks. So who is here that is the first in their family to go to college, right? So that's some risk, right? Because you didn't have to go to college. You could have done what your parents were doing. Who here is an immigrant or a first-generation American? That's many of you, right? That's a risk, because your parents came here. They might not have spoken the language. They didn't know where they were going to live. They didn't have money, maybe. And so I'm going to start with that story for my family. So my family, I grew up in Egypt. I spoke Arabic. I didn't speak a word of English. Actually, the only English word that I knew was airplane. And I'm pretty sure I was pronouncing it incorrectly because I was pronouncing it aeroplane. And now it's not the same. Now I don't pronounce it aeroplane. I pronounce it airplane, which is very different. But you can tell kind of what 10-year-old me was thinking about and where my head was at that time. So my dad came here to the United States, lived in Jersey City, and he was a lawyer in Egypt. He came here to be a baker, and he came here to make bread. And he made bread for 35 years. He got both me and my brother and I through college, working that job, which was 4 p.m. to 4 a.m., and that inspired me. I was like, wow, this is a choice that he made to come from a different country and work a really hard job so that we can go to college. And he was a lawyer in Egypt. He didn't have to be a baker here. I mean, there's a certain amount of professional feeling of comfort when you wear a suit, when you have people, kind of open the door for you, or when when you have that professional respect. And he wasn't getting any of that here. And he always said that I will take off my suit so that one day you can put on a suit. And I felt a great deal of responsibility for that as, kind of a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid. So it kind of resonated, but it didn't really resonate other than the risk that he took to come to a different country. Went through high school. That was a blur. I really didn't pay much attention in high school. I was a B student. I don't think I opened up a book for 4 years of high school. I think maybe I studied one time for a history test, or maybe it was a physics test, but that was it. And then I got to Kean. Right before I got to Kean, it was my senior year, and I'm going to tell you about 2 things that kind of changed my perspective, okay? But I want to give you a little bit of a deeper insight into 18-year-old me, 17-year-old me in high school. And this is where mentorship and good counselors and good advisors can really make a difference. So I didn't even apply to college. I didn't apply to college. Actually, I kind of half applied to a college, another college in New Jersey, because a girl that I liked went there or wanted to go there. And I mailed in my information. They never got back to me. And that was it. Like, that was my whole experience with college. But Miss Parker, who was my guidance counselor in Bayonne High School, she said, you should go to high school. You should go to college. And I said, okay, like I can go to college. That's fine. It sounds like that's the next thing to do. And so she helped me she put the Kean application in front of me. She helped me fill it out. She said, just give it to me. And then Kean had an on-site admission day on December 10th, a long time ago. Like, I remember the day very clearly. So that day, Kean was having on-site admission at Bayonne High School. And that same day, my class was supposed to take a trip to New York City to see the Saturday Night Live studios. Choices. So you guys are very smart, okay? What would you do? What would you do? Would you? SNL, okay. Marshall would go to SNL. What would you guys do? Who would? Come to Kean. Okay, so we have divergence of opinion here. So Mr. Hudak gave me my slip. He said, oh, you have 2 slips today to get out of class. One is to go to an all-day trip in New York City, and one is to go get on-site admission for Kean. I hadn't applied to college. I went to New York. So didn't even give it a second thought. So Ms. Parker then spoke to the on-site admissions representative. I talked to her years later, and I asked her this question. I said, why did you admit me? And she said, well, because Ms. Parker spoke highly of you, and your numbers fit, so I admitted you, even though I didn't show up for on-site admissions. That was a blessing. That was just kind of, that was the world, God putting things in the right place at the right time. So I ended up coming to Kean. That's it. That's how it happened. Months later, they sent me a blue card for me to pay my $50 deposit. It's probably much more than that now. $50 deposit. I was like, Dad, I have to pay a $50 deposit to go to college. He goes, okay, pay it. So I paid it. And then they sent me another letter. What I'm trying to share with you is that it was all very happenstance. Like there was no plan at all. And then something changed. I went back to Egypt that summer between end of my senior year and the beginning of college. And I realized how big of a risk my dad took to come to the United States. And I understood why he took the risk. Because I was talking to cousins and nephews and relatives who were like, we really want to leave. We don't see a future here. You're in the US. You have all of these opportunities, like college. And at that time, I was thinking I was going to go to physical therapy. And they were like already calling me a doctor. And so I remembered that great need that my father had. And I remembered the great opportunity that I was presented with and how so many people in my home country would have given up everything to come here. And that sense of responsibility started at that point. And then I had some really great mentors throughout college that just kind of said the right thing at the right time to help me figure out what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. I remember Mr. Mike Worlds. He was kind of the intro into college teacher. And Mike Worlds said to me, don't just drive into the parking lot and drive home. Come here, commit some time, do something with your time. Don't be a parking lot student. I was like, what is a parking lot student? And so I listened to his advice, and I started to become active in student government with Chimobi and others. And then I remember Dr. Vitale, telling me about the choices that we had. I had Laura as a wonderful mentor who helped me write my first research paper. I remember Judy April, who helped me. Is that you, Judy? Hi, Judy. It's great to see you, Judy. I remember Judy April sitting down with me and writing down my first resume and CV. I had nothing. I didn't have a CV. I didn't have a resume. So Judy, I was applying for this like scholarship, and Judy was like, okay, where's your CV? I said, I don't have a CV. She said, where's your resume? I was like, I don't have a resume. And so Judy brought me into her office in Townsend, and she said, okay, we're going to write down a CV. So she opened up Word on her computer and started typing my CV. And then gave it to me and said, work on it and bring it back to me. But those were the really formative moments that helped me figure out, okay, like this is how I become a professional. These are the choices that I make. I had the will and the love and the support from family at home, but the direction really came from Kean. So the next 4 years were a flash. I was tunnel vision. I was going to get an A in every class. I was going to participate and be active and push. And I got accepted to medical school. So that's the first vignette, okay? Kind of that transition between not understanding and having some direction. But now I'm going to talk to you about fear when you take a risk, okay? So then I got accepted to a medical school in New Jersey, and I got accepted to Michigan State. They were really different choices because, you know, I had always lived in New Jersey. I had always lived close to home. So I was like, okay, well, New Jersey seems like the right choice. But then Michigan State was a much bigger place with what I felt were like really smart people, much smarter than me. And I was like, well, how do I go there and do a good job? Maybe I should just stay here and just, you know, kind of ultimately, because they gave me a scholarship and because, you know, I felt like I had some traction to do something there, my wife and I got in our car. It was a 1994 Infiniti QR30 or whatever. And we put everything that we owned, pillows and blankets and sheets, in the back of the Honda, the Infiniti. And we drove across from New Jersey to Michigan. That was a risk. That was a risk because we didn't have like Google Maps at that time. Like I didn't even know if I was going to get there. So we're driving across Pennsylvania. It takes 6 hours to get through Pennsylvania. And if you've ever driven through like across Pennsylvania, it doesn't end. Like Pennsylvania should be its own country. So we're driving through Pennsylvania. We get right out of Pennsylvania, and a couple of days before, my cousin and I had changed the axles on my car. We changed the axles on my car. I didn't have money to get it professionally done. My cousin, who was 4 years younger than me, was like 17 years old. He knew something about cars. So I was like, okay, you and I will fix the axles of my car before I drive across like 4 states. And so we changed the axles. And so I'm in Hubbard, Ohio. I'm turning right to leave this gas station, and I hear click, click, and both of the axles had broke in the middle of Ohio. And man, that was scary. I was like, where do I go? I'm never going to make it there. Do I just go back home? So we get it fixed. We get on the road. A couple of days later, we're in Michigan. And then I'm at Michigan State. We move in. And everybody that I talk to is like brilliant. I'm like, wow, like postdocs and staff scientists and fourth-year graduate students who are publishing research papers. Like, surely this is the moment when they figure out I'm a fraud. Like, this is it. Like, this is the moment. Like, I will be thrown out of this program, and they will say, sorry, it was nice to meet you, but please go back home. So I'm showing up early. I'm doing everything I can because I want to succeed now. Like, this is different. This is a different version of me. This is like, I will succeed. So this moment, if you remember nothing from my talk, I want you to remember this moment. I was just telling a couple of trainees in the lab about this moment. And I think you will have experiences like this in the future. And if you do, I want you to think about what I'm going to tell you, and I want you to think about what choices you're going to make. Okay? So I had joined this really productive research lab that was like the best lab to be in. Like, they published papers. It was a big team. The PI was a rock star, not literally in research terms, which means that he just published a lot of papers. And I joined this lab, and it's filled with people that are much more experienced than I. And, you know, it's like Monday. He goes, okay, here's how we make virus in the lab. I go, oh, that sounds interesting. I make virus in the lab. That's really interesting. And so he goes, here, this is what you do. And so he does a bunch of things over the course of a day and a half. And I go, wow, I hope I never have to do that. That seems really hard. And then the next day he goes, okay, now you've seen me how to make a virus. Now you make a virus. So he gave me the tube, and he said, okay, now you make the virus. I don't know. I don't know if I could do this. I remember that moment as if it was yesterday, because I think this is where, that Robert Frost quote, take the road less traveled, and for that, do the thing that scares you. Honestly, here's what I thought. The door to the virus room was right behind me. It was right here. The door to the virus room was right here, and the door to the exit was right there. The freezer was right in front of me, and the door to the lab was to the right of me. So it was like exit, virus room, freezer, lab. And he hands me the virus, and he goes back into the lab, and I go, this is when I escape. This is where I leave. I'm just going to leave. Like right now, I'm going to walk out the door, and no harm, no foul, like it's fine. I'm just going to leave, and I'll just drive back home. But I was like, I have to move my stuff again. It's going to be really hard to do that. What do I do? And then I start to, over the course of a minute, I start to think to myself, well, here are my options. I can go make the virus and kill everybody in the lab, because I'm growing virus, and certainly it's going to leak out because I'm going to do something wrong, and it'll be a natural disaster. This is a big risk I'm taking. Or I could just make the virus and I die because I inhale it or something. Or I could make the virus and they figure out that I'm a fraud. Or I could make the virus and it can go okay. And I just turned and went into the virus room, and I just made the virus. 2 days later, the postdoc looks at me and goes, that's the most virus I've seen made in the lab in a long time. And I go, wow, I was about to escape a couple of days ago, and now I've impressed this guy that I think is very impressive. And then the next 6 years of that, or the next 7 years of that DO PhD program flew by. That was a critical moment. I had the president of our hospital, his name is Kurt Newman. He and I didn't exchange comments or thoughts. I was meeting with him a couple of weeks ago, and he said to me, in 1984, when I was a pediatric surgery fellow, I was in the room doing a procedure on a baby that's 3 kilograms. I had to do ECMO, which means that you put in a line in a baby, and you have to it's like a tough surgery because the line is bigger than the baby, so you have to make an incision bigger than into a small thing. And he goes, it's July, it's 95 degrees. I look across the window. I look out the window. I'm in the patient room. I'm gowned. It's seething hot. I look out the window, and people are in a pool. And Kurt Newman is saying this to me. He goes, I really wanted to leave. I go, oh, wow, that's like my virus moment when I was trying to make virus, and I almost left. And I go, oh. And he goes, I go, so you stayed? He goes, yeah, I stayed. And he did the procedure on the baby. He became the chief of surgery for our hospital. He became the president of surgery, president of the whole hospital, and he's written books. He became. So think about that moment. Think about that moment when you work hard and you have an opportunity and there's a big risk. What do you do? Do you walk out the exit? Or do you go make virus or do a surgery on a baby? I don't know. I know that my life would be different if I decided that I was scared and left. And when you have the big moments like that, then there's smaller things. It just kind of puts everything in perspective. You could just go, oh, if I made virus and I didn't hurt everybody or I didn't kill everybody, then maybe I can, apply for a grant. What's the worst that can happen? I don't get it. Big deal. I matched into Children's National for this combined pediatrics and child neurology residency training program. And again, every 5, 6, 10 years, I get this moment of feeling so overwhelmed of like, I'm not in the right place, I shouldn't be here. And I had that moment again when I went to Children's National. The residents were like, my co-residents were brilliant. Like I remember one of them walking up to the bedside of a baby or a patient and going, look at the vitals, look at the heart side, look at this, look at that. This kid clearly has shock. And I go, you and I are supposed to be the same, but we're not. Like I couldn't do that. But I persisted. I went through, kept going through. And then, as Renat mentioned, then the Zika virus pandemic was kind of everywhere. And that was another big risk. That was a big risk. And I was scared about that one, equal to the other ones, if not more. Because I thought, well, let me tell you about the Zika virus pandemic so you get some perspective. So this was a virus that nobody had ever heard of, that's originated in Uganda and traveled across the Arabian Peninsula, India, Asia, the rest of Asia, and then ultimately made its way to Brazil. And in Brazil, it caused an epidemic of virally induced brain injury. What does that mean? That means that a healthy mom, healthy pregnancy, mom is healthy, baby's healthy, everything is fine. A mom would get a mosquito bite and her baby would develop severe brain injury that would mean that they couldn't walk, that they couldn't talk, that they couldn't go to school. And oftentimes it was the poorest family that the moms contracted the virus in. It was moms that were living on the floor level of houses that were next to standing water resources where mosquitoes are highest. So not only were they having to care for multiple children, but now they also had to care for a child with a severe developmental disability. So that seemed wrong. That seemed like unfair and like poor and terrible. And I was like, why aren't we doing anything? But academically, it seemed unjust. But academically, it also seemed to me like this is a virus. I've really had like a strong interest in viruses that affects the developing brain, that affects some babies severely, but not other babies at all. What is that? There's a lot of questions here, and people didn't have an answer for them. And so, how do I, a resident, and like a resident or like an intern at that time in a hospital, an intern is like a freshman. We're older, but an intern is like a freshman. You really don't expect them to know very much, maybe some. You really don't depend on them for workflow. I mean, some, but not. Like they're not making a diagnosis most of the time. They're just kind of going through the process because they have a lot of stuff they need to learn about medicine before they can be the brilliant, attending who's diagnosing things left and right. So I'm an intern and I'm thinking to myself, I'm really interested in this research problem. I had great research experience and training at Michigan State. Is this something that I can even take on? And I was watching CNN and the banner was going across the bottom of the screen. And I remember thinking to myself, I had two thoughts. The first was, I want to work on this for the rest of my life. And then that's really scary because what if I fail? What do you do in that moment? What do you do? Turn off the TV. Turn off the TV and take a nap. So what I did was I started reaching out to mentors and I said, I really want to work on this. Like, help me get started. Like, I'm in Washington, D.C. The virus is affecting pregnant women in Brazil and Colombia. What do I do? So they were like, sounds like a good project. So they started connecting me with people. And then those people were like, you're a nice guy. And we kind of trust you. So they started connecting me with other people. And then some people were like, this is a good research project. We'll support you. And then from that idea and a couple of emails, we have a consortium that I'm really proud of. It's not where it needs to be. There's a lot of things we have to do to make it better. But I'm really proud of it. We've published papers. It's the only research consortium of its kind, the one with the most number of samples and participant data that I'm aware of for studying any prenatal viral infection, let alone Zika. And it took a risk. So what do you do? So, I'll reflect back on, we'll leave a couple of minutes for questions, but I'll reflect back on what Robert Frost said. He said, "Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." And Dale Vitale said, "If you're between two choices, and one of them scares you, pick the one that scares you." I guess. You guys have amazing professors. They think about you as, this wasn't a part of my presentation, but it's clear to me, talking to faculty over the last couple of days, that nothing has changed in that regard. You have professors that really care about you, that are really trying to elevate your career trajectory, that see your success as a critical component of their success. And it's the faculty, the staff, and so, a lot of members of my family went to Kean. My brother got both of his master's degrees at Kean. My niece goes to Kean. So, we're committed to the institution. We think it's a great place. And I think you have something special. So congratulations to you. Congratulations to the faculty on what I think is really amazing set of accomplishments over the past 20 years. And thank you for having me back. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to take questions if you guys have them. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, do you still get that feeling sometimes of fear of wanting to just walk out the door?
Yeah.
To repeat, do you still get that feeling of wanting to walk out the door? And as you deal with people in medicine and research who are very senior, do you find they still have that feeling as well?
Nobody really talks about it, but I had that feeling this morning. I think that feeling is normal. I think that feeling that's a great question. I think that feeling is hardwired. I think we're conditioned that way evolutionarily, biologically. I think we have a deep stress response of trying to protect ourselves. And I think we have to fight it to get to where we want to go. Because no matter what you want to do, there are going to be challenges. Whether you want to be the CEO of a company, or whether you want to make more money, whether you want to do another project, you're going to get to a point in which you're doing something that hasn't been done before, or doing it in a different way, or maybe it's because you're the one doing it, and you're going to have to take a risk. And so I have it in smaller ways, like this morning. We're also submitting a grant application to NIH that we really need to get funded. I find out about that at the end of the week. And so I think it's normal. But I put it in perspective. I try to put it in perspective. Because sometimes you go, if I don't get this next thing, then what will it have all been worth? But I think, then maturity sets in, and then balance sets in, and then you go, okay, well, maybe it's not that bad. I'll just apply again. That comes back to persistence. I'm not comparing myself to different types of folks who've had astronomical success, but you think about like Bill Gates. Like Bill Gates took a big risk creating Microsoft. Think about Elon Musk creating Tesla. Electric car when it was like, what is an electric car? Think about Mark Zuckerberg when he dropped out of college. I'm sure he had a moment in which he was scared, and he thought, well, what if I fail? What do I do with going back to school? I think it's normal. And then, my hope is that you have enough resilience, love at home, support that tells you that I'm going to lean in and I'm going to try really hard, and it's okay if I don't do it. What's the worst that can happen? What if I had made virus, and I don't want to hurt a bunch of people, but what if I had made virus? I think that was probably catastrophizing something that wasn't going to happen. And I think our brains do that sometimes too. But what if I made virus and it didn't go well? You just try again. It's not that big of a deal. You just try again.
Thank you.
And same thing with your professors. All of your professors are amazing. But if you're interested in going to medical school, if you're interested in being a doctor, then pick the hardest professor. Pick the one that's going to make you work hard, because that's the one that's going to help you get to your goal. You don't want to go through the wide open doors that make it easy for you, because you're just delaying that really difficult moment. Take the hard professor. take the hard class, spend some extra time. I'm not talking to you. You haven't told me that you want to take easy professors. I'm just, but I think you do that because you recognize that I'm going to teach myself to work hard. I haven't talked to you about hard work. I haven't talked to you about persistence. I haven't talked to you about, because all of those things are there already, right? You're already working hard. You're already persisting. I'm talking to you about that moment when you've already worked hard and you've already persisted and you have to make a choice. And that choice, you have to pay attention to that because that's a divergence in the road. That's like, I'm going to go left or I'm going to go right. Because, I don't want people to have regret. There's a lot of people who are in, later parts of life who regret things, who feel like they've lived a life that wasn't fulfilled. And I don't want that for you. I want you to rise to your potential. I want you to be able to do everything that you want to do, right? How great would that be if you've lived a life in which you felt, I've done everything that I wanted to do. I'm happy with my life. I can die tomorrow and I would be happy. Right? Dr. Farnham. Dr. Farnham.
Thanks. So inherent in taking these risks is the possibility that you'll fail or it won't work out well, not necessarily failure. So can you talk about some time where you did bomb or it really didn't work out the way you wanted to, and then how you rolled with it?
Yeah. It's a great question. It's a great question, Ted Farnham. I fail so frequently that I don't even remember it. I don't even remember it, but I'll give you a good example because I think this will help me illustrate the point about persistence and hard work and having enough love at home that will want to keep you going. So there was this really important grant. It's called a K08 or a K grant. It's a career development grant. And it's a really competitive grant from NIH in which NIH gives you $1 million, $1.2 million, so that you can develop into the physician scientist that you want to be. They have that for basic scientists, they have that for translational scientists, but it's for physician scientists. There's other versions of that for PhDs. It's called a K08R00 or K00 or something like that. So I applied for that grant once and didn't get it. It was not discussed, which is like, you shouldn't have even applied. It doesn't really mean that, but that's how I interpreted it in my brain. So I applied for it and didn't get it. And then I applied for another version of it and didn't get it. And then I applied for it again and didn't get it. And I applied for it again and I got it. And I had to persist through that. I had to work on getting the grant. I had to take feedback about stuff that I wasn't doing, stuff that I was doing that wasn't working well, and stuff that I wasn't doing that I needed to do. And I needed to be able to adapt and change and make it better every time. This R01 that we're currently working on, submitted one time, got a relatively good score, didn't get the money. Submitted another time, got a relatively about the same score, didn't get the money. Submitting it for a third time, and I'm planning on a fourth time and a fifth time. I'm going to keep submitting it until it comes. But you know what? Even if it doesn't come, I'm okay with that because I tried, because I did everything. And so if I put in all the effort and I responded to everybody's feedback and I did everything that I could, and in the end that I don't get it, then what do I regret? There's nothing to regret because I did everything that I could. So failure with, or setbacks with publications, getting a paper submitted and getting it rejected, so many examples. But to me, I feel like that's just part of the process. It's like the world and nature telling you, like, do it a little bit differently, do it a little bit differently, do it a little bit differently until it comes through. But you don't lose anything if you keep trying.
Yeah, I have another one. So I think a lot of what we've been talking about has been kind of your mindset through it all. Just more on a practical level, like what struck me was you were in your residency, right? And at that point you wanted to tackle this really hard research project. How did your, residency is known to be a very grueling process. So how did you structure your days in order to be able to tackle these two really, really hard things going on in your life?
Yeah. Lots of personal sacrifices. So residency is grueling. So residency is 5 a.m. to 6, 7 p.m. Children's National is a tertiary and quaternary referral center. For those of you who don't speak medicalese, that means that we get referrals from a referral. So that means that a patient comes to us when other doctors have said this baby or this patient really needs an extra level of care or a higher level of care, or they have a problem that could possibly lead to their demise. So those are the patients that we get. So that day starts at 5, 6 a.m., like in the hospital. I was starting the consortium during that time, which means that I really don't have time to do a bunch of stuff between 6 a.m. and 5 a.m. and 6 p.m. That means I was coming home and writing emails, connecting with people, finding 30 minutes in a day. Hey, can you cover for me for 30 minutes while I take this phone call? Hey, senior faculty member, would you mind joining me and helping me so that I can reach out to these people? Because the other thing too is credibility, right? Credibility is earned. And I think that's a good lesson that I needed to learn earlier. I was like, don't they know that I'm a nice person? They should trust me. But credibility is earned because they're trusting you with patient samples and money and resources and all of those things. And so how do you get that level of credibility? You have to prove yourself. How do you prove yourself? You need time. And you need people to vouch for you. And like what my mentors were doing when they started to connect me with other people, they were putting their credibility on the line so that we could work together, so that I could reach out to somebody and we could work together. And then you stay very humble too. I don't know everything. I know that I don't know everything. The people that are sending me their samples for sequencing or for analysis know more about this problem than I do. And so being willing to learn and be wrong and saying, yep, I'll do it better differently next time. Those are all I think are key. The hard work needs to be there. The persistence needs to be there. And then,
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking is you're talking about 14-hour intense days here.
Yeah.
Is there something that you would recommend to us to be able to have that kind of stamina? Or is it maybe you found your passion and it just kept you really motivated?
It was passion. It was passion, but stamina is important too. So I learned stamina here at Kean. There was an internship that I wanted to do in New York City, and I was a graduate assistant at that time, and the graduate assistantship was paying for my graduate school, so I couldn't lose the graduate assistantship because I couldn't afford to pay for my master's degree. And I remember asking Dr. Lawrence, and I remember saying to Laura, can I go to New York to do this internship? It was a volunteer internship. They weren't going to pay me for it. So I needed to keep my assistantship, keep doing my classes, and do this internship, which helped me actually get into medical school. I remember saying to Laura, can I do that 2 or 3 days a week and then do my assistantship for 2 or 3 days a week, and then I could make all my classes at nighttime? Would that be okay? And Dr. Lawrence said, yep, yes. And so now when a student asks me something, I say yes. When they say, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that, I go, yep, that sounds right. Because they need to do it for a reason. So you support them. But the stamina came from that because I was going to New York for a 9-10 hour day. I was hopping on a bus. That's like a long day because they don't care. They're not thinking about me going to graduate school classes in the evening. So I would take the bus here and then I would get in my car and come to class for 3 hours. And then I had homework assignments that I was doing on the weekend. When Chimobi and I were in student government, I was sharing with the team yesterday, I was sleeping under my desk when I had exams. I didn't go home. I would study until 4 a.m. They had free coffee in the student government office, and then I slept underneath my desk And then I woke up the next day and took an exam. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I had a pillow underneath my desk. We make tough choices, you know? It's hard. It's not, and you know, the thing about us is that, about the Kean community, is that we haven't been given everything. We need to make our own opportunities, and we need to establish credibility. And you know, that's a personal decision. Are you going to try to get the 4.0? Are you going to work hard? Are you going to be involved in student government? Are you going to engage? Are you going to take the harder professors? Those are all personal choices.
So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Judy. Judy had a question.
Hi, Yos. How are you?
Hi.
Just want to mention, he was one of my student ambassadors in 2003, 2004.
Yeah, it was my first. It was my first job.
And he was a real big student leader with Chimobi on campus. And I never doubted that you would be in the place that you are, and I'm very proud of where you're at. I do remember our Charlotte Diakite
Yeah.
actually named her son after you.
Yeah.
Because we knew you were going to do big things. So congratulations to you, and
Thank
it's
you
so
very
good to
much.
see you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.
So we have a
Thank you.
token of appreciation for Dr. Youssef Kousa, and I'd like to invite Dr. Marshall Hayes to come and help me.
It's very kind. Thank you so much.
I think we have, yeah.
They got it back there too.
Do I want to? I think you can hold
Thank you.
this, right?
Thank you
Thank
guys
you,
very
everyone.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Thank you.